Hello everyone, welcome to the Mercury Virtual. Hope you are doing good. Today I am going to continue with your same module, that is object oriented programming, and the same chapter, that is chapter number 6, that is constructors and destructors. So we have started constructor and destructor in the last class, and in the last to last class, and we are doing the practical approach as well as the theory approach in these classes. And in the last class we have discussed some topics like multiple constructor, how to use different constructor at the same time. Now today's topic is how to use the copy constructor, that is the today's topic. So let's start with the previous class session what we have covered in the last class, then moves to the today's session, that is a copy constructor, right? So 6.4 is multiple constructors in a class, that is how to use more than one constructor in a single class. So far we have discussed multiple types of I'm so sorry. So far we have discussed two kinds of constructors, that is a integer constructor, that is a no argument, and the two argument, that is not more than one argument, not more than two argument. So that is a no argument, that is a default constructor, and the two argument register or two argument constructors. In the first case, the constructor itself supplies the data values and no values are passed by the calling program. In the second case, the function calls passes the appropriate values from the main. C++ permit us to both or use both these constructors in the same class. So we have used, or we are able to use more than one constructor in the same class or at the same class at the same time. Right. For example, this is a scenario that is used. There is a class that is defined, that is an integer m or n. Then there is a public, this is an integer, that is a constructor 1. Then there is a constructor 2, and then there is a constructor 3. So there are three constructors that is used. One is normal, the default constructor, that is with no argument. One is with the two argument, that is constructor 2. Then last one is the copy constructor, that is using the address of operator, that is using the ampersand sign. And then there is a semicolon or the curly braces, and the curly braces are closed, and then there is a semicolon. This is what we have covered in the last class, that is how to use the multiple constructor, that is a default constructor with two arguments at the same time in the same program in the same class. This declares three constructor for an integer object. The first constructor receives no arguments, so it contains no argument. The second receives two integer argument, it contains two integer argument, and the third receives one integer object as an argument, that is a one object as an argument, that is a address of operator, that is a copy constructor, right? So for example, the declaration, that is integer I1, would automatically invoke the first constructor and set both m and m and of I1 to the 0. Then we will discuss how to overload the constructor, that is how to use more than one constructor at the same time, that is a overloaded constructors. This is also the program that we have discussed in the last class, that is a program of the complex number, that is how to print the complex number in a sequence, that is I plus j or the j plus I. There are three constructors in the class complex. The first constructor, which takes no argument, that is used to create objects but are not initialized, like this one. Then one is a constructor that takes only one argument. So this is a constructor that takes only one argument, that is a one argument constructor. Then constructor that takes two arguments, that is a constructor with the two arguments, that is the next part. Then we have discussed that how to use the constructor, or what are the constructors that is used with the default argument, that is there is no limit, there is no argument that is used, so we have given the argument as a default argument or the default constructors. So it is possible to define the constructor with the default argument. So it is also possible to define the constructor, like this is a constructor that is used to define the constructor with the default argument. For example, the constructor complex can be declared as follows. This is a complex, then there are two arguments that is used, one is a real, one is a imaginary, and imaginary is set to the 0, that is it assigns the value to the 0, and there is a float in previous of the image, that is the imaginary equals to 0, and then there is a float real. So that real is not given any value, but the imaginary part is given or assigned the value. So what is the default value of the imaginary part? That is a 0. So this says the default value of the argument imaginary is 0. Therefore the statement is look like this one, that is complex C 5.0. So this assigns the value 5.0 to the real integer or real variable and 0.0 to the imaginary, that is by default. However, the statement that this also assigns 2.0 to the real and 3.0 to the imaginary. The actual parameter when specified overrides the default value. So it is important to differentiate between the default constructor and the default argument or default argument constructor. So default constructor means not giving any argument, but default argument constructor means giving the argument, but that is assigned to the 0. Right. Then we will discuss about the dynamic initialization of the object. That is at the dynamic time how to initialize the object. Right. So this is the class example, that is dynamic initialization of the instructors at the time of runtime. So there is a class that's name is fixed deposit, and there are multiple variable that is used like log int p amount, years, rate, r value, that is a return value. Then there is a public, that is fixed deposit log int p int y float r equals to 0.12. Then log int p int y int r, then void display void. So there are four functions that is used. Three are the constructors and one is a function that is used to display the output, that is a display function. And there are 4 data members that is used, and this is the definition of the data member, that is known as the explanation of the constructor, that its name is fixed deposit. This is the class name, that is a fixed deposit. There is a scope resolution operator that is used. Then there is a fixed deposit, then long int p int y float r. Then this is the calculation part that is used. This is the definition of the next constructor. Then void fixed display is used to display the values. Now next is copy constructor. So that is how to use the copy constructor, that is a today's topic. So let's start with the today's scenario, today's session, that is a copy constructor. Till now we have discussed the default argument constructor, default constructor. Now next is the copy constructor, that is whenever we pass the values, whenever we pass the addresses, not the values, whenever we pass the address, that is the address of operator, then we have to use the copy constructor. So we briefly mentioned about the copy constructor. In section 6.3 we use the copy constructor, that is integer ampersand I. So this ampersand is used as a copy constructor, that is ampersand is used, and there I is the name of the variable, and there is this is the integer, that is a constructor, and this is the class name. Then next point says, as stated earlier, a copy constructor is used to declare and initialize an object from the another object. That is, a copy constructor is used to copy the constructor or align the values or declare and initialize the values or objects from one another or the other object. For example, the statement. This is the statement, that is integer I2 I1 would define the object I2. At the same time it initializes the value to the I1. So it will initialize the object of, or it will initialize the object, that is I2, and at the same time initializes it to the value of I1. Another form of this statement is this one, that is I1 is assigned to the I1, that is to define the I1 as a content of the I1. So define the I2 as a content of the I1. The process of initializing through a copy constructor is known as copy initialization. So whatever the process that is used for initializing through a copy constructor, doing the work with the copy constructor, then another form of the statement is integer I2 into, or integer I2 equals to I1. Then the process of initializing through a copy constructor is known as copy initialization. Remember the statement. This is the statement that is used. This will invoke the copy constructor. However, if the I1 and I2 are the objects, this statement is legal and simply assigns the value of I1 to the I2. This is the task of the overloaded assignment operator. We shall learn more about this chapter. A copy constructor takes reference to an object of the same class as itself as an argument. So what this line said, that it takes a reference. It means the copy constructor takes a reference to an object of the same class as itself as an argument. Let us consider a simple example of constructing and using a copy constructor as shown in the figure. So this is the example that is used, that is a copy constructor. Then IOStream, that is a header file. Then class name, that is the class name is code, CODE code, and there is one data member, that is a ID. So it is declared as an integer part, that is a int ID. Then there are three constructor that is used in the public section. One is a simple constructor, that is a default constructor. One is a constructor again, that is a duplication of the constructor. Then one is a copy constructor, that is code ampersand x. So whenever we give the argument, that is declared as a inline function within the member function. So the second one, that is a member function that is used, is the code int a id equals to a. Then what is the copy constructor value, that is id equals to x into id. Now using the void display, that is void display void, then cout id, then there is a closing curly braces and there is a semicolon. So this is the class has been defined, the code class has been defined. In this there is only one variable and there are 5 to 6 constructor and the functions. Then int main will be started, or int main is started, then uses the code a100, that is the object a is treated as and initialized, that is the object a, that is code a100, that is given the value as 100. Then code ba, that is copy the constructor from the b or a to the b. So whatever the values of a, it is going to the b. Then c equals to a, that is copy constructor again, whatever the values of a, that is assigned to the c also. Then correct or code d, the d is created, not initialized. Then d equals to a, that is copy constructor not allowed. So cout id of a is a dot display. So with the help of a display function, that is the cout id, this will declare, or this will display the output on the screen, that is a dot display, b dot display, c dot display and the d dot display. Then there is a return 0 and there is a closing curly braces. So what is the output of this program? Let's see. First of all, it will run that is the ID of A100, that is the ID of first one, that is 100. Now next is so ID of A is 100, ID of B is 100, ID of C is 100, ID of D is 100. So our notice says a reference variable have to be used an argument to the copy constructor. We cannot pass the argument by value to a copy constructor. That is, we cannot, or we are not able to pass the value in the copy constructor, but only give the reference to the copy constructor. When no copy constructor is defined, the supplier supplies its own constructor. That is, when no copy is defined, then you can construct any value at any time. Now the next topic is dynamic constructor, that is how the constructor will be used at the runtime. So till now we have discussed how to use the copy constructor, that is simply uses the ampersand sign and the variable name. Then next is the dynamic constructor. The constructor can also be used to allocate memory while creating the object. So while creating the object, a memory will be reserved for the or in the memory. This will enable that system to allocate the right amount of memory for each object when the objects are not of the same size, therefore resulting in the saving of the memory. So when the object is not of the same size, that is the one object contains the 2 bytes and the second object contains the 10 bytes. So it's obvious to use the 2 bytes. It's obvious to gain the 2 bytes and then to use the 10 bytes. So that the object will be created for the smallest number of bytes. So this is just an example. So this will enable the system to allocate the right amount of memory for each object when the objects are not of same size, therefore resulting in the saving of memory. Allocation of memory to the object at the time of their constructor is known as the dynamic construction of the object. So whenever we allocate the memory to the objects, so whenever there is allocation of the memory to various objects at the time of their construction, that is whenever they build, that is known as the dynamic construction of objects. The memory is allocated with the help of the new operator. So how the memory will be allocated for the object, that is done by the new operator, and how to release the memory, that is also done by the new that is done by the delete or the remove constructor. Then this is the example that shows that a constructor with the new one. That is two header files are used. Now one is the IO stream, that is the input output stream.h. Next is the IO stream. Next is the hash include string, that is the string file is used because we have to use the string function in this program. Then there is a class string, that is name of the classes string that contains two private members and multiple constructor. So one of the private data member is char pointer name. How do I know there is no word mentioned that is a private? So how do I know this is a private member? Because by default when nothing is mentioned, that means this is the private part, right? Then there is a char pointer name, that is a char pointer name means the name will be used or the name will be declared as a pointer, that is a pointer name. Then int length, that is a length will be used and that is of integer type. Then there is a public, that is a string, that is a constructor 1. Then length equals to 0. That is a length, that is assigning the length equals to 0, that is 0 is assigned to the length, and there is a name equals to new char length plus 1, that is the name operator is used, the name pointer will be used, and the new char will be used as a function that is used, and there is a length plus 1, that is incrementing the length by the 1, that is a new char means new means allocating the memory for the char, that is for the length plus 1. So whatever the value in the length, that is a 0. So at the 1th location, that is a 0 plus 1 is 1. At the first location, the char will be allocated, or the memory space will be allocated for the various chars, and that will be stored in the name object or the name variable. So this is the constructor 1 in which the char will be used or the name will be used or allocating the memory, right? Then next one is using the pointer, that is a string char pointer s, that is a constructor 2. Then this is mentioned, that is a length equals to strlen s, that is a taking the length from the user, that is storing the length in the length process and putting the formula, that is the str length, that is the string length, and there is a n. The name equals to new char, that is a new char is also a function, and then length plus 1, that is one additional character for the null character. Then strcpy name s, that is copy the content of the s into the name. Then there is a semicolon, closing semicolon. Then void display void, that is again the next function that is used to display on the screen, that is a void display void. Then cout name void join string ampersand a and the ampersand b. There are two strings that is used, one is ampersand a and one is ampersand b, and then there is a closing ceremony, that is a closing curly braces, and there is a semicolon. Then the void string, that is the join definition will be used. Now this is the definition of the join function, that is how join function is used, that is a void string, and then there is a scope resolution operator, then there is a join, and two arguments are passed as a reference, that is the ampersand a and the ampersand b. Then there is a semicolon that is started, that is a length equals to, or calculating the length, that is equals to the a dot length plus the b dot length. Then delete the name. So whatever the memory, dynamically memory will be allocated to me, that is done by the free function. Now the memory will be closed, that is done by the close function. So delete name means storing the student name from the, or storing the details from the access. So this is length equals to a dot length plus b dot length, that is calculating the length, and that is equals to the a dot length and the b dot length, and then display delete the name. So whatever the memory that is reserved from the name, that is deleted from the memory. Then there is a name equals to new char length plus 1, that is a new function is again used for storing the data, that is equals to the new char length plus 1. Then there is a two functions are used, one is the strcpy function and the strcpy function, and the a dot name. So whatever the value that is contained in the a dot name, that is stored in the a. Whatever the value that is stored in name dot e or b dot name, the output will be stored in the name function. So it's copy means copying the right side content into the base class content, that is the base content. So this is the explanation of the join. Now there is a int main. So there is a char pointer first equals to Joseph, that is the first is assigned the value as a Joseph. Then a string and name 1 first, name 2 2, name 3 in double quotes, and then s1 s2. So there are two or there are multiple declaration that is used. So that is a string. So it is a string part, that is a name 1, that is the first, then name 2, name 3, name 4, name 5. Then s1 dot join, that is the join is used, or the join function is used, that is accessed by the s1, and then there are two parentheses, that is a name 1 and the name 2. So whenever there is a declaration part, so it directly moves the cursor to this one, that is the name and 1 and the name 2. Then name 2 dot display and the name 3 dot display, and at last the s1 will be used to display all the functions, all the values together, and s1 is again, or s2 is again used to display the functions together, and there is a semicolon of the or closing of the int main. Now this is the output of the program. First of all, the Joseph will alive because the Joseph is the name of the first one. So this is Joseph and then Lewis. So whatever it is display, it will display. So Joseph and then Lewis, then Lagrange, then Joseph Lewis, then Joseph Lewis Lagrange. Then next is, then there is a Joseph Lewis and Joseph Lewis language. This program uses two constructors, that is above program uses two constructors. The first is an empty constructor that allows us to declare an array of strings. So whatever the array of strings we are able to create, we are able to declare, that is known as the array of strings. The second constructor, so first constructor is an empty constructor. So the second constructor is one that initializes the length of the string. So first of all, initialize or calculating the length of the string, that allocates the necessary space for the string to be stored, and the create or creating the string is normal. Note that an additional character speed is allocated to hold the end of the string characters. That is, the additional string character is used to hold the content at the end, that is a null character. So the join function that is used to join the two operators. So this is the member function join concatenates the two strings. So concatenate means join the two strings that is used. It estimates the combined length of the string to be joined, and that is the combined length means the total length of the string to be joined, allocates the memory for the combined string, and then create the stream using the string function, that is the strcpy and the cat functions. Right. This is the explanation of the program that is used. So this is just an example of the copy constructor, that is how to copy the content that is also used by the string function, that is the strcpy and the strcat function. Now constructing two-dimensional array. So that is the next part, that is how to use the matrix, that is whatever we use in the C, in the same way there is a matrix in the C++, that is so how to use the matrix in C++. So we can construct matrix using the class type object. So we are using the class type object, that is the object that is used to create the objects, or that is used to create the matrix. The examples in the figure 6.6 illustrate how to construct a matrix of the size m into n. So there is a hash include IOStream, then there is a class matrix. So there is a class matrix that is used, then there is a int pointer p. So there are two pointers that is used, that is a pointer to the matrix. And there are two dimensions, that is the d1 and the d2. So there are two dimensions that is used, or two variables that is used, that is known as the d1 and the d2, right? So they are known as the data members. And then there is a public declaration that contains the member functions. So one of the matrix constructor that is used, that is a matrix int x int y. So the matrix is the name of the constructor. How do I know it is the name of the constructor? Because the main reason is that its name is same as the class name. So matrix, that is a parenthesis int x and the int y. Then void get element, that is get element is the name of the function that is used, and void means that is a return type. Then there are three arguments that is used, that is I, j and value, that is I, j and the value, and three of them are of integer type. Then what is the content of this one, what is the value, or what it contains, that is a pij equals to value. Then int ampersand put element int I int j, then return pij. So this is one of the ampersand operator that is used, one of the AND operator that is used, that is the put element, and there are two argument that is used, that is the int I and the int j. Then there is a return ij. So this is the way how the matrix will be formed. Then there is a closing curly braces and there is a semicolon. So this is the explanation of the constructor. So there is a matrix, then there are two values, that is x and the y. Then d1 is given to the x, or x is assigned to the d1 and the y is assigned to the d2. Then p equals to new int d, that creates an array pointer. So this is the array pointer. So whenever we use the array, so there is a requirement for the for loop, so that is I equals to 0, I is less than d1, I plus plus. Then assigns the value of p1, that creates the space for the each row. Then there is a int main. There are two variables that is used, that is m and the n. Then cout, enter the size of the matrix that is displayed, or that is scan, or that readouts in the memory, that is m and the n. Then matrix a mn, that is the constructed. Then enter the elements row by row, like in the same way what we have covered in the C language. Then uses the two loops, for loop. One is the outer loop, that is I equals to 0, I is less than m, I plus plus. Then j equals to 0, j is less than n, j plus plus. Then c in value, that is whatever the value that is taken, that is captured in the or that is read out in the c in. Then a dot get element, that is the that is a matrix, that is the object that is used, that is a matrix. Then dot get element, that is getting the element, and there are three arguments in this, that is the I, j and the value. Then there is a closing curly braces, right? Then cout double quote slash n. Then a dot put element 1 2. Then there is a return 0, and there is a closing curly braces, and there is a semicolon. So what is the output? This is the output. First of all, enter the size of the matrix, that is 3 by 4, 4 by 4, 2 by 2, 3 by 2. Whatever the size that is given, that is the size is mentioned. Next, enter the matrix element, that is entering the elements of the matrix row by row. Then 17, that is 17 is the value of the element 1 2, that is finding out the element. That is a Constructor first creates a vector pointer to an object to an int of size d1. Then it allocates interactively an integer type or integer type vector of size d1 that is pointed at by each pointer, each element that is used, that is a pi. Therefore, the space is allocated from free storage at the shown below. Then the next topic is const object, that is the constructor objects, right? So we may create and use the constant objects using constant keywords before object declaration. For example, we may create the x as a constant object of the class matrix as follows. So the class name is matrix, that is created as a constant object, for example, that is defined by using the keyword that is a const. So just use the const keyword that makes the matrix or that makes the object of the class as a that makes the object as a constant. So this is const matrix x mn. So this is object x is constant. Any attempt to modify the values of m and n will generate compile time error. So if there is any attempt to modify the values, that will generate an compile time error. Further, a constant object can call only const member functions. As we know, a const member is a function prototype or function definition where the keyword const appears after the function signature. So const member is a function prototype, remember, where the keyword that is a const appears after the function signature. Whenever the const function or object try to invoke non-const member function, the compiler generates an error. So whenever the const object, that is a constant object, it try to invoke the non-constant member function, that will always generate an error. That is a const object. Now next is destructors. So we have finished with various types of constructors like multiple constructors in an object, in a class, copy constructor, const objects. That is what is the difference between the constructor and the overloading. So we have discussed so many topics of the constructor. So in simple terms, whenever an object is created of the class or whenever an object is created of a class, then automatically it is assigned to the 0. That is done by the constructor. That is, construct the elements, construct the objects of the class. Then destructor. What is a destructor? As the name implies, it is just reverse of the instructor. That is used to destroy the object. So with the help of constructor, that is used to invoke or build the object, but destructor is used to destroy the object that have been created by a constructor. Right. Like a constructor, the destructor is a member function. So whenever we create a constructor, whenever we create a constructor, the destructor is a member function. So like a constructor, it is a member function that is used, whose name is same as the class name. So its functionality is same, its role is same, everything is same. That is, its name is same as the class name, like in the constructors. That is preceded by a tilde sign. So in constructor there is no tilde sign, but in destructor there is a tilde sign, that is a tilde, then integer, then there is a parenthesis that is used. A destructor never takes any argument, nor it return any values. This is just same. It does not take any argument, it does not take any values. That is a destructor, like in the same way what we have discussed in the constructor type. So a destructor never takes any argument, nor return any values. It will be invoked implicitly by the compiler upon exit from the program or block or the function, as the case may be used, to clean up the storage that is no longer accessible. So it is used to delete the program, delete the object, so that if the object that is contained, that is of extra, that does not have any values or that is no longer used, that is to destroy the object, so that to clean the object, clean the storage that is no longer accessible. It is a good practice to declare the destructor in a program, since it releases the memory space for the future use. So it is a good practice to declare the destructor in a program. So whenever a new is used to allocate the memory in the constructor, we use the delete to free that memory. So the new is used to allocate the memory in the constructor, and the delete is used to delete the memory or free the memory so that every object can be deleted. For example, the destructor for the matrix class discussed above may be defined as follows. This is matrix, and then there is a scope resolution operator, then there is a tilde, then there is a matrix, then there is a parenthesis. So this is a destructor, definition of the destructor in the same way what we have covered in the constructor. There is a class name, that is a matrix, there is a scope resolution operator, there is a tilde sign, there is a destructor, that is also a matrix. Then for loop is used, that is int I equals to 0, I is less than d1, I plus plus. Then delete pi. So deleted the character one by one. It starts from the 0, it ends with the d1. Then delete p. This is the matrix form. This is required because when the pointers to the object go out of space, that is a constructor or destructor is known as implicitly. The example below illustrates that the destructor has been invoked implicitly by the compiler. Implicitly means internally aligned by the compiler. So this is hash include iostream.h, then int count equals to 0, that is assigns the count equals to 0, assigns the value of the count is initialized to the 0, and this is of integer part. Then there is a class alpha, that is the class is declared, that is the alpha. There is a public declaration, that is the alpha, count plus plus. So count the value, adding the value, that is a count plus plus. Then cout, number of objects created, that is it will display like this one, that is the number of objects created, and counts the value, that is approaches by the count plus plus. So whatever the values of count, that is displayed in the number of objects that is created, and the curly braces or the curly braces will be closed, and there is a tilde alpha. So this is a destructor, this is the constructor, and this is the destructor, that is destroying the object. In the same way, number of objects created. So whatever the number of objects created, that will display over here, and then count, that is display, and then at last there is a count minus minus. So this will decrement one by one after destroying the object. That is the number of objects destroyed. That is a count minus minus. This is also a destructor. Then there is again the curly braces close, and there is a semicolon. So this is the class alpha. There is a public part, that is alpha, that is used. There is a tilde, that is alpha, that is also used. Then there is a int main, that is a main of the function. Then there is a cout, enter in the main, that is enter the main or going into the main. Then creating the objects of 4 types, that is a A1, A2, A3, A4. So alpha is the name of the class. So object of class alpha is created into, or there are 4 objects that is created, that is a A1, A2, A3, A4. Then cout, enter the block 1, that is entering the block 1. Then A5 is also a new object that is created, that is a A5. Then again cout, enter in the block 2, that is alpha 86. Then re-enter in the alpha main, then there is a return 0. So whenever it is created in the block 1, that is enter in the block 1, so there are 4 objects that is created. So it will count the object, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Again one more object is created, it will again count the object. This is number of objects created. How many objects created? That is 4, that is A1, A2, A3, A4. Now enter enter in the block 1. So in the main 4 objects are created. Now in the block 1 only 1 object is created, that is number of objects created is 5, number of object destroyed is 5. Then enter in the block 1, that is enter into the block 2. Then alpha A6, that is alpha A6 means allowing the objects or creating the object. So number of object created is 6. So total number of object created, that is a 6. So there are total 6 objects that is created. So there is an object that is created of the 6 values, and then again re-enter into the object, that is a re-entering the object, that is the main. Now number of object destroyed is 4 because it is only allowed the 5 object to be created, and the destroyed is also 5, and the number of object destroyed is 4, 3, 2, 1. So it is destroyed from the upper to the lower part, that is 4 3 2 1. So this is just a number of object created, that counts the object, number of object destroyed, that counts the object. So this is the example, this is the best example. So in the main, 4 objects are created. In block, number of object created is 5. In the block 2, number of object created is also 5. Re-enter in the main, number of object destroyed is also 4 3 2 1. Next, as the objects are created and destroyed, they increase and decrease the count. So as it is more, then it increases the count. It is decreased, then it decreases the count. Notice that after the first group of object is created, A5 is created, then destroyed. A6 is created and then destroyed. Finally, the rest of the objects are destroyed. So this is created, this is destroyed. Along with the side by side, this is created, this is destroyed. But these are created and this is destroyed over here. Right. Finally, the rest of the objects are destroyed. That is 4 3 2 1. When the closing braces of a scope is encountered, the destructor for each object in the scope are called. Note that the objects are destroyed in the reverse order of creation. So it is destroyed in the reverse order. It is created in the forward order, that is 1 2 3 4, but it is destroyed in the reverse order of the creation. Right. Now this is the summary of the chapter. That is what we have covered in this chapter. So the first point says C++ provides a special member function that is known as the constructor that enables an object to initialize itself when it is created. So C++ provides a special member function that is known as the constructor that enables an object, that enables an class object to initialize itself when it is created. This is known as automatic initialization of object. That is, automatically initializes the object that is done by the constructor. Second point says a constructor has the same name as that of the class. That is, whatever the name of the class, that the same name is given to the constructor, not any different name. Then constructors are normally used to initialize the variables and to allocate the memory. Then similar to the normal functions, constructor may be overloaded. So just like a normal function, constructor can also be overloaded. Then when an object is created and initialized at the same time, a copy constructor gets called. We may make an object const if it does not modify any of its data value. Then C++ also provides another member function that is known as destructors that destroy the objects when they are no longer required. That is, C++ also provides one more member function, that is a destructor that allows the object or that destroys the object when they are no longer required. Now these are the various questions. That is, what is a constructor? It is mandatory to use the constructor. Then how to invoke the constructor function or how to invoke a constructor. Then list some of the special properties, features of a constructor function. Then what is a parameterized constructor? That is, whenever we give the argument, that is known as the parameterized constructor. Then can we have the more constructor in a class? That is, if there is a more constructor in a class, yes. Then next is, what is the dynamic initialization? That is how to dynamically allocate the memory. Then next is what is how it is achieved, that is how dynamic initialization is achieved. Then differentiate between two statements, that is how to differentiate and how to differentiate between the default argument and the parameterized argument. Then these are the debugging exercises, that is how to use the debugging exercise. This is the error finding exercises, that is identify the error. Then this is the programming exercises, that is how to use the program. Now next is operator overloading and the type conversion. This I'm not going to start right now because today there is some shrink in the class, that is I'm taking only 1 hour class till 5 o'clock. So after 10 minutes my class is over. Due to some assignment work, there are some assignment work that is given to you that is very beneficial for the student. So at least some person is coming to understand the assignment work, what is assignment work, whether that is as per the student requirement or no. So that's why I'm leaving this one for the material purpose, for the assignment purpose. So after 10 minutes the class will be over. So for 10 minutes we will be doing the practical approach of the C++ and any practical approach of the C++, just basics of the program, right? So let's move to the basic or the practical approach. So this is hash include iostream.h. iostream.h, then hash include conio.h, then there is the int main. Sorry, there is a first of all yeah, there is a int main, just basic. Then declaring the values. For example, I am declaring any two variables, that is a, b, c, d. Then uses the or finding the area of a rectangle, that is a breadth into height. So this will be not used, simply use breadth comma height, right? Then see out enter the breadth of a rectangle of a triangle. And then cin, that is storing into the output, that is the breadth. Then cout enter the height of the triangle, then cin, that is the height, then calculating the area. So one more that is required, that is the area, then area equals to half into, that is given in the brackets, into height, right? Then cout for printing the area, right? Then there is a get ch, there is a return 0, the same, and here there is a clear screen for clearing the screen. And then there is a closing of the curly braces. Now if I compile this code, there are two errors. Undefined symbol area, so this is not defined symbol, so I have to close over here. This will not start over here, right? This one. Now if I compile, there is no error. If I execute, enter the breadth. For example, if I enter the breadth as a 25, enter the height, then the area of a triangle is 0. Why it is 0? Because we have not assigned the value equals to 0 over here. Now if I execute, if I given the value as a 10, 20, then the output is again 0. that is half into length into breadth, that is 200 divided by 2, that is 100. Breadth into height. One half into breadth into height. If I give the parenthesis over here, now if I gives the output as a 0, I don't know why. So if I give over here 0.5, not half, now if I compile, now the output arrives as a 100, because that 1 by 2 is not taken by the system, and that is we have given the 0.5, that is also the 1 by 2. Now if I again compile by giving the brackets, then 10, 20, again 0, so it is not taken as this one. So this is not 1 by 2, it is not taken 1 divided by 2. So we simply give 0.5 over here. Now if I compile, it will take, for example, 20, 20, that gives the output as a 200. This is 200 because 20 into 20 is the 400, and whenever the 400 is divided by the 2, that gives the value as a 200, right? So this is the example how to calculate the area of a triangle, that is half into breadth into height, and we are taking the height and the breadth from the user, and area is initialized to the 0 first of all, then calculating the area, that is half into breadth into height, that is 0.5 into breadth into height. So this is a program of the area of a triangle. So let's save. So let's stop over here only, and in the next class I will be taking your next topic, that is next chapter, that is chapter number 7, that is operator overloading and the type conversion. So for today's there is only one class for due to some assignment work. So thanks a lot everyone for listening me. If there is any doubt, you can ask the doubt from me, and if there is any confusion about the class, so you can ask from me, and from for tomorrow I will be taking the next chapter, that is chapter number 7, that is operator overloading and the type conversions. Alright, so thanks a lot everyone for listening me. Bye bye.